Good afternoon, good evening to you, everybody, wherever you may be.
Hey.
There's Joey Vincent. Now, folks, if you're tuning in, you know I don't normally do this. Normally, I'm on at 1 in the afternoon and doing, whatever the hell it is I do. But last night, I was fortunate enough to see my friend Joey, who was also the host of the Filter Free Amerika podcast, downtown in the area of the 3rd Precinct in Minneapolis on Lake Street, and literally functioning as an independent journalist. And I got to tell you, Joe, I really appreciate the fact that you didn't editorialize while you were down there. It's refreshing to be able to see that and just have somebody that says, here's what this is. And take a look at it with your own eyes. The Arby's is on fire. Now, to be fair, you had a couple jokes, which were actually pretty good.
Thank you.
But anyway, so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And also, folks, a little bit later, we'll have, or he'll hop in here whenever he does, Funches, who some of you know, was actually downtown Minneapolis at the approximately 4th and Hennepin area. And he was doing some live streaming, which I didn't realize until this afternoon. So we'll have him on and we'll talk to him also a little bit. So the first thing I'm interested in, Joey, is you went down the night before as well, correct?
Right. Yeah, it was my second night last night.
Okay. So when you were down there, did you feel any kind of apprehension at all? Did you feel like you were unsafe at any point?
And that's something I talked about on the stream, is like, if I didn't come across as being scared, that's only because I just play it off well. I mean, I appreciate the environment of it. I've been in environments not of that size and definitely not of that, mass amount of chaos, but I've been in chaotic situations before. And you got to understand that going into it, that there's a tremendous amount of risk. So was I scared? Yeah, I was scared. But I was also well aware of that before I even got in my car to drive there, that I was going to be putting myself into that situation. And that's just kind of the exchange rate, so to speak. I mean, if you're going to be there, boots on the ground, and what I was referring to as ground zero of the protest, you better put that through your head first, that you're going into a dangerous environment. There's no rules. There's whatever. You have to accept that walking through the door.
Were you surprised that the police basically gave up the 3rd Precinct building?
But yeah, blown away.
I was shocked myself. And couldn't understand it. But as you showed, it was set fire to. There were people inside, whether they were looting or just vandalizing it. Right. I again appreciate so much that you were able to actually get that on your stream.
Yeah.
And some of the other things that were happening, and you didn't have to go very far.
Right.
To see a wide variety of crazy stuff that was going on.
It was weird. It was like being in a small country among itself, of just anarchy and no rules type thing. And I can't really. I always refer to it as like I felt like I was being in a movie for so long. It was I was on this movie set, and I'm just an extra in it, and just absorbing it all around there. It's nothing I've experienced ever before in life to that degree. Nothing.
So, how did you find the? Hold on here, Kristen. Kristen's watching us from Virginia, by the way. Was there any? Well, you probably don't know this. Whether there was any ammunition or anything. I would assume the police took everything out of there that was that would be of any danger to anybody else, or
I would think that's
sensitive.
I did hear some gunshots that sounded like a rifle grade gunshot that were coming from that direction. I couldn't. This is just me speculating, and just like she mentioned on her comment there might have been some ammunition left behind that started popping off, but there was definitely gunshots somewhere in the area at the time that were very uniform and not just like the rounds burning off.
One of the things that seemingly was kind of standard for both nights was that there were people setting fireworks off.
Right.
Were you, and now I know your background, but so people know, were you able to distinguish between the fireworks and the actual rounds?
Yeah, I'm an avid gun enthusiast, so I can kind of audibly I can kind of tell the difference, but also I mean you can see them. I mean a lot of the fireworks were visual display fireworks, so some of the, if you're listening to or watching any of the people's streams and you hear a big explosion going off, a lot of those really big thunderous booms were just display grade fireworks.
Gotcha. So tell me a little bit about the group of people that were down there. From watching your stream, I could see that it was diverse.
Right.
It was, but could you tell if there were certain groups that were just there to protest and certain people that were just there to cause trouble? Could you tell that, or not so much?
I can't say I know what they were thinking and what their motivations were. No one told me I'm just here for A or I'm just here for B. But especially the first night, it was much more defined. There were, a very large and for the most part, a majority of people who were there specifically to protest. And there was, of course, looters and people vandalizing and things like that. Last night, again, got more chaotic, and I can, again, without putting words in people's mouths or trying to say that I know what they were thinking completely. There were obvious people that were down there just to go into stores and remove things from the stores. Take that for what it's worth. And I of course want to hammer someone. This was something I was hammering into my feed because it angers me so much when you hear people who are on a right side of the political paradigm talking about using terms, and I'm quoting them, animals and things like that, and that's their trigger words or their dog whistle words for minorities.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just minorities down there. I literally, I don't know if you saw it on stream or if you saw it on stream when I was there. I was at the Cub Foods there across the street from the 4th precinct.
Yeah. As
people were entering and leaving, still removing items from the store. And there must have been a 60-something-year-old white woman walking into the store as I was filming. And it was like, there you go. And it's just not like single examples like that. There were plenty of white people that were down there that were looting. The gentleman who I filmed driving his hatchback car, literally driving his hatchback car through the front door of the Target there, was a white dude, right? He drove in there, did a couple donuts, smoking a cigarette, drove out. That was, it was the good and the bad were both politically or racially diversified.
That's one of the things I was going to say. Seeing that guy drive that car into the Target was one of the most amazingly ridiculous things that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that you got that on film. Did you find that there were anybody who, because I noticed you were asking people on occasion, were there a lot of people that said, please don't film me, I don't want to be on your video?
A few times, oftentimes not. I just try to do that and here's the thing. I'm not a traditional journalist.
Yeah.
In this fact that I'm a very opinionated guy. Anybody who knows me for 5 minutes knows I've got an opinion for you. But we're all journalists to a degree. That's why we have the amendment that protects our right of free speech. So I was going there as more as a documentarian to just document what was going down there. And I did include some opinions about things that were going on that were mine, but I was also trying to be reflective of all angles there. But to your question, some people are uncomfortable about it. There were some crimes being committed, and I was like, hey, can I film you? Is it okay to film you? And sometimes they said no, and oftentimes were very polite about it. I wanted to do that for them. I didn't want, I'm in that environment there as a just an observer. That's how I considered myself. I have very strong opinions about the Minneapolis Police Department and law enforcement issues overall, but I wanted to give as my podcast name implies, the most filterless view I could offer at the time.
Right. Another question I have for you is, during these situations, there are typically a lot of independent journalists out there on the street. The one that I know, and you mentioned because you recognize it, and I've watched as well, Unicorn Riot was out there. But they're more high profile than a lot of folks. Could you tell there were other people doing reporting and streaming, or is it kind of not as advertised?
There was, I would easily say hundreds of people out there. And if they were doing it and trying to do it in any kind of professional or branded fashion, I don't know. But I mean, there's a bunch of us goofballs walking around with our cell phones talking to ourselves. So, I mean, obviously there's multiple streams out there. Like I said, are they doing it just to, document it from a personal perspective, or if they're trying to gear it towards educating an audience or giving something to the audience? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Wayne. Good to see you, Wayne.
Wayne's a part of Filter Free Amerika. He's got to love it.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, it was interesting to me to be able to watch you last night, and then follow along on the Hennepin County Police
Scanner.
And some of the things that popped up on there. There's a Twitter feed for that. It's HCP _FM. And if stuff gets fired up again, I think it's a good place because they were very quick on things and they were very accurate. And I like that. He did. Wendy, if you got to watch him, my gosh, it was really something. And I got to say this, in my position, Joe, it's so nice that you take that risk to go out there and do this, because for many reasons, I would never do it. Mostly because I'm in the COVID target, so I don't even want to go down there now.
Right.
I don't even want to go to Target now, unless I absolutely have to.
Right.
And this whole thing. Here we go. Can you address the rumors of MPD using cell signal jammers?
Again, that's nothing I can confirm. I know the first night that I was down there, there was a lot of signal interference, but is that I don't know. I don't know enough about the technology and how it works. I can't speak intelligently about it. I know multiple times I had to, hard shut down my phone, reset it to get back on to get streaming again. But was that because there was an intentional, manufactured interference, or was that because I'm around thousands of people with cell phones and streaming and things like that? I can't answer that more clearly than that. I
kind of felt like last night you did not have very many interruptions.
At the beginning I did, but at the last full long stream I did, it went completely uninterrupted, for at least from my end. I don't know what the visuals were on the other end for everybody, but
yeah,
pretty good.
So when you went down there, did you have kind of a up here? I'll let Wendy ask this question. Do you think St. Paul claims it's not a cop? Everybody looked the same. The guy at the AutoZone. What do you think about that guy?
I can't speak absolutely, but I am absolutely for sure that that's not a protester.
Yes.
I watched that video. That it was the morning after my first night down there, and I was still up. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning, and I watched the stream, and just the body language, the confidence, the bravado of being in that environment as a very white guy, right? It screamed cop to me. Anybody, again, people who don't know me, I've had my run-ins with the laws earlier in my life, so I have a very familiar rapport with police. That person was there, not an average white dude from the suburbs. That was not who was down there.
I was going to say he stuck out in that situation more than anybody I've ever seen anywhere.
Yeah.
And as you say, the deliberate action that he took, and the thing that really struck me, and I know that Andy was watching and he found the thing and found the residue on his glove, and that was pretty cool. Yeah. That he posted free shit for everybody zone. But the thing that really struck me about it was he's carrying that umbrella and the hammer in the same hand.
Right.
That is not something a normal human being would do ever.
It's a very tactical grip.
And he didn't move it. Move it. Yeah.
See the
I did not see that.
No,
oh yeah. Hop in anytime, D'Angelo. Just hop right on in. We have D'Angelo because D'Angelo was in a different location than Joey was last night, and he'll hop in and we'll ask him a little bit because He was at about 4th and Hennepin, and has a little bit different perspective. I don't think there was nearly as much damage or rioting down there, but there were a lot of people down there, as I recall. So anyway, we'll get that when D'Angelo comes in. Umbrella is a pro move to protect from tear gas.
As somebody who's been gassed multiple times, both during this event and at the hands of police officers, that's probably not going to work very well for you.
I heard that it was more to keep overhead helicopters, etc., from seeing them.
That's what I think it is. I think it was more of a disguise thing, or because it's a very unique thing, especially in the times that we're in right now, to carry an umbrella. So if he was some kind of agent provocateur or somebody who was down there and he was partnered with anybody else, be it law enforcement or a third party, having an umbrella makes you stick out from a distance and a sea of people who all have various forms of masks on, and
so maybe not only to hide, but also to let people know where he was.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wendy asked if you're going to go down tonight. There's obviously a curfew now in place in Minneapolis and St. Paul from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m.
Right.
What do you think? Are you going to go down?
I'm trying to find out how again, I'm an independent journalist and probably not respected by law enforcement as one. I don't know what the laws are in regard to that, or how they're applied during this this curfew situation that's out there. I'm going to assume that mainstream media is allowed to go down there. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to block them out. That would be highly suspicious if they did. But if I can find out for sure, if I can get verified that for sure the mainstream media will be out tonight doing any kind of filming, I am going to try to make an attempt and either get fined or get turned around or get arrested in the process. I don't know yet.
Well, hopefully you won't get arrested,
right,
because we need what you're doing there, brother. So you mentioned getting some tear gas. Were you gassed during all of this?
Yeah, like about 3 times.
Wow. So are you able to take it, or do you have, as everybody does, milk to pour in your eyes, or?
Well, the first, I had a military grade gas mask that I have that, I just happen to have already in my collection of weird shit. And the first time it happened, I was just so unprepared. There's a little bit of shock going into the situation, absorbing everything in the first time. I didn't have my mask set up to fit my head properly. So when the gas started coming out, I tried to put it on quickly. Didn't fit. I got gas the first time. I had to fall back. I didn't use milk. I used water just to kind of help everything out. But again, it was just, times of putting the mask on fast enough or taking off and adjusting it, and then not realizing that I'm going to get gas super fast, even if I just open it for a second. So most of the time it was just me not having my mask on properly. But I was right there that first night, right there in the thick of it. I mean, 30 feet from the line filming of both the protesters and the police line, kind of right there in the middle. And the gas canisters are going off at my feet. The first night I filmed, just one shooting over my head and landing right there next to me as it starts spewing the gas out.
Oh man. So I'm curious, if when you went down there, if you had a plan on A, where you were going to park, B, how far you felt like you would be able to move around, or how far you wanted to move around.
I just let the scene kind of dictate it. I was concerned about the parking thing. I was concerned about, where I was going to leave my car, both where I could legally park and then anything that was to happen. So I made sure, I think I was about 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 blocks at least parked to the west of what I'm calling the ground zero, which is the 3rd precinct. Because you couldn't drive in there anyway, especially the first night. It was blocked off by roadblocks, and then the last night, by the time I got there, the police had just fled. I unfortunately missed that by maybe 10 minutes, and it was just chaos down there. And you wouldn't want. I was really surprised. A lot of people with some nice cars were driving through that area, but it was not a place I'd want to have my vehicle.
Large Marge has a question. Do you know, are police departments statewide on alert? I would assume they are.
Right.
I know that there was. I was just before you came on. I was watching a live stream from Rochester, where they're having a group of protesters down there, and the Rochester Police Department is geared up in riot gear.
Wow.
So it's entirely possible, because I just don't think anybody knows what's going to happen.
I think it's a lot like a terrorist threat type thing, where governments like that, they just have to respond as a matter of practice, because you just don't know. You got to have your guard up regardless, whatever it is, whatever the threat is.
Absolutely. So when you were down there, a lot of people may or may not know, you may have not looked on a map. The 3rd precinct is a little bit to the west of Lake Street and Hiawatha. And so how far did you go
a little bit
from
to
the 3rd? Pardon me?
A little bit to the east of
to the east?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct.
Yeah.
So did you go back under Hiawatha down Lake Street to the west? And because that's where the Target and the Cub are, correct?
No, the Target and the Cub, that was let me correct that. There's a Cub, there's 2 Cubs, and there's 2 Aldis that are strangely within 4 blocks of each other.
Oh wow, okay.
So if I can help kind of map it out for you, if we're sitting right there at the 3rd precinct, if you were to look across the street, across Lake Street, that is the shopping center where the Target is, and one of the Cubs is.
Gotcha.
And across the street from that is where, across the street to the east of that, is that giant apartment complex that we watched burn on the first night when it was under construction. There's also an Aldi's there, a Wendy's there, and that's where the AutoZone was at as well too.
Gotcha. Okay.
But just when you go underneath Hiawatha, there is another Cub and another Aldi's. Again, just a few blocks away. The Aldi's was for sure vandalized on the 2nd night, and that Cub, as I was leaving last night around 2-3 o'clock in the morning, it was engulfed in flames. That 2nd Cub.
Gosh. All right. And how far to the west did you get on Lake Street?
I went all the way in through St. Louis Park the first night, and then all the way in west on Lake Street. And then whatever that road is, I can't remember where I turned in to go into Minneapolis briefly, just because I wanted to see. And plus, that was the direction I go home. I live in Florida, so I just went down there, and I was kind of shocked at how far west I went last night in my last video that I put out, where I was still seeing destruction. I got all the way deep into Uptown, right there with the what's the name of the theater there? The Uptown Theater, is that what it's called?
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking. Not the Lagoon, but.
Yeah, whatever.
I know the one you're talking about. I've seen a couple of movies there myself.
Right.
I just can't think of it, but yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Right there at Lake and Hennepin, right?
Yeah. So right there, I got stopped at that red light. I'm sitting there at the red light. To the right of me would be what, I don't know if it's Cowboy Jack's or if there's some kind of bar or something.
Yep, Cowboy Jack's. That's right.
And then there's a McDonald's there to my immediate left. And then I was catty corner from the theater, and I'm filming, out my car window, and you see gentlemen. Inside there, I saw a guy throw something, and then I see people pulling stuff out, and there's 2 or 3 cars that were pulled up there that, as I was observing it, clearly to me looked like they were there loading things in. I don't know what they would be still. Uptown Theater. Thank you, Wayne. Yeah. So, and that was kind of shocking to me. So I went ahead. It was at that point I made the decision, instead of continue to go west, to go ahead and make that right-hand turn on Hennepin and go into the city and see what was going on that way. And even some of those small independent businesses down there were also vandalized. I couldn't verify looting, but I would assume they went hand in hand at that point.
Absolutely. Dan's got a question for you. Do you think with the arrest and charges, things will calm down or get worse?
I don't know. This is to a degree that I've never experienced before, so it's really hard to speculate. I think with the the restrictions on people moving out, that's going to the curfew and all that. That's going to slow down a lot of the crime stuff. And at that point, they're just going to arrest whoever's out there if you don't have a really good reason or any kind of, protection to be out there. I don't know. I do know this as someone who's tracked, police crimes in general, and specifically Minneapolis, since I lived here, Minneapolis and Minnesota related police crimes. The people have been spoken to and told that there's going to be corrections, and we're going to fix this, and yeah, you're right, and all that for years. I'm not exaggerating. For years, for at least the last 5 to 7 years, This has been a repetitive cycle of police crimes, friendly, peaceful protests. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is wrong. We're going to fix this. And then by the time the news cycle comes back around again, we have another police officer killing somebody for whatever reason. And it's a point of frustration for me. So I can only imagine as being part of a group that's more victimized than my own, number for number, where their frustration level is. And again, all these people who are on the outside looking in, who aren't putting themselves there, who don't know, who don't follow, who use politics as their moral guide. I don't think they appreciate, the frustration that's going to create. And what do you want those people to do? What do you want us as a society to do? I mean, eventually it's going to come to us. I mean, if you're only worried about white people, guess what? The police are killing white people too. And we saw that just last year.
Yeah. I can tell you that for my opinion, for the short term, coupled with the curfew, I believe that the fact that Chauvin is in custody will help calm things down a little bit. It'll help separate some of the people out. It doesn't solve the problem.
No.
And my true and honest opinion is that this will go on for a while. And if they are not convicted, then we start the whole gamut over again, which is going to be terrible. One of the fellows that I think we both know, a lot of you that are watching know, Chuck Gollop, a former cop in Bloomington, it mentioned something about a federal consent decree. And from what he said about it and the way he explained it, I feel like that's the only way that things will be solved here in Minneapolis. Basically, that the federal government takes over the entire police department in Minneapolis, and that's it. And gets rid
Froze on my end, John. I don't know if you can hear me.
of the people. There we go. We just get a glitch every once in a while because of traffic.
Cool.
And I can't get Chris to come up. Anyway, there we go. Usual sentence. The sentence that I heard for third degree was up to, and there's Wayne, up to 25 years. And that's the way it was understood to me. I might have given you the wrong one, D'Angelo. Hold on here. Let me send you another link and make sure that you got the right link here, because I am not getting you even coming in. I will copy that and I'll send it to you again on Messenger. There we go. And we'll give that a try. I'll tell you one thing I'm going to do. We might be having some technical problems. One of the things that Keith Ellison, when he was talking, mentioned was that, and Mike Freeman as well, who's the Hennepin County DA, there may be additional charges added. They may increase the charges, but I think what they wanted to do was they wanted to get him in custody, and third degree and manslaughter, which he was charged with both, I think is the easiest way to get him and keep him in custody.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that you can go up in charges after the fact as evidence comes out. But again, I still think it's more of a token move than anything. And again, this is a little bit of my opinion coming out versus fact. I think it was more of an opinion move. And I think a lot of the frustration, and Ellison was asked that this morning on a news clip I watched this morning. They were asked about, the news anchor. She asked him, well, if we as citizens were to do anything similar, they would have been arrested right away. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's a core of a lot of the resentment. A lot of the people who are victimized by police, they get a different flavor of justice, so to speak, right, than criminal cops do. Right. All you got to have to do is really, you're committing a crime, we're going to arrest you right now. Where police have this very, very light-handed, well, we're going to give you some pay and you're going to go home and you're going to think about it. And we're going to do this investigation. It's going to take forever. And then we're going to drag out this criminal case forever. And all during that time, that's the insulation, because then that gives time for the population, all of us, to calm down or forget. And then as charges get dropped, charges get lowered, or they get fucking dismissed. Excuse me if I'm not supposed to cuss on here.
Yeah, you can.
And by then we don't care. And then there's another murder that we can just start over again. And it's just this repetitive cycle. And that's, if I can stress anything in this interview here, that's where a lot of the core of that frustration is coming from. This is years and years and years of the same fucking shit over and over again, and the same murder, talk about it, sweep it under the rug, let them go, slap them on the wrist, whatever. And it happens again. And it's a continual cycle.
Absolutely.
I mean, if I could add to what he said, and also in that buffer time, another thing that's really common is that when someone gets killed, what they do is they then run through all of their background history, and for at least the general public, those people who are always, well, what if this? They find some excuse to justify, and generally, it's never anything that really can contribute to murder or even the case itself. So,
right,
like the forgery, the check. Now, I don't know if this is confirmed, but I was told that the check that was forged that they were looking for him was only like $20 or something like that.
My understanding was that it wasn't even a forgery. It was that he passed a $20 bill that was counterfeit, and who would know that?
I've heard both. I don't know. I can't confirm either.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many rumors going around. It's hard to tell these days.
Okay, so let's. Dan says before they can charge him with first degree, they got to be able to prove premeditation, and that is correct.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Absolutely. So, folks, now joining us, D'Angelo Funches, who some of you know as a fine young comedian from down in Rochester. He was up, and I didn't know you were doing this last night. Otherwise, I would have watched you as well.
Yeah.
You were downtown Minneapolis, and from the looks of it, about 4th and Hennepin in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, I went to several locations, but I did spend quite a bit of my time downtown, which, if I might add, out of all the places we went, that was the most peaceful group that we found, where there was no burning of anything, they weren't breaking anything, they weren't assaulting the police, anything like that. So just the overall response that they gave to that group was completely unnecessary, if you ask me.
But there was also a lot more police presence in that area as well, right?
Man, the way that situation kind of played out, if you watch the videos that I posted, it's hard to tell what's going on because they're in bits and pieces. But I mean, to just walk you through kind of like when we got there, and I was only there for about an hour and a half. I wasn't there for a crazy amount of time, So just kind of when we got there, we were right outside of Gold Room, that nightclub, and it was just, your general chance. And then the sheriff's office had one kind of angle blocked off. And then on the other side of the intersection, there was probably 3 times the amount of people on the other side. And then the Minneapolis police had that side blocked off. And then after about probably 10, 15 minutes, there was a group of kids that were like trying to cause trouble, but people were kind of like getting them to leave. And then out of nowhere, the police break their line and just start walking away from us. So the group, I don't think they realized what was going on, but like they just kind of followed them down about 2 or 3 blocks. And then we wound up getting kind of trapped in between these buildings where there's like a courtyard almost. And the police had set up there. And then there's a road to my left, road to my right, and then behind us. But then just out of nowhere, we start seeing these barricades on the right side of the road, and they blocked off that corner. And then behind us, they blocked the corner. So there's only one way to go. And then after about probably another 30 minutes or so, these, like, I don't know if they're Humvees or what you want to call them, but these big tarp-covered trucks show up. Yeah. And then the National Guard people start jumping out. And what was crazy is, like, it wasn't like they were trying to figure out what was going on or, like, create some kind of position to control the amount of people that were there. As soon as they got out, they just start firing at us as soon as they got out. And then everyone starts running towards the one road where we weren't being barricaded. And then before we even got halfway down the block, another one of these vehicles pulls up. Mind you, they have us completely surrounded at this point. And then they start firing at us. And then we start running back towards the direction we came. And they wound up running through one of the barricades, and the police ran. And then when we rounded the corner, we were by Augie's, where there's like a little lot right there. Right. And there was easily 20 officers lined up, and they're just firing at people and cars as we're coming by. I wound up getting shot in the leg last night, and I do have to say 0 stars, would not recommend at all.
So when you say firing, it was tear gas, rubber bullets. What I'm assuming is what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Okay.
So from the few seconds I was able to kind of gather what was going on before I ran, it looked like the National Guard folks were shooting the rubber bullets at us, and
Really?
then the sheriff's office started firing the tear gas, but people were picking them up and trying to throw them away from us. But mind you, no one had masks on, so I guess I didn't understand the point of the tear gas if they're not even protecting themselves from it, you know? So
Right.
yeah, it got chaotic fast, but there wasn't any damage or any like destruction or anything. But I just thought it was really odd that the least violent group were the ones that they like pretty much attacked, you know?
Can I? Do you remember approximately what time of evening that was when that happened?
I want to say that was probably right around midnight sometime because we
Okay.
wound up going to the police station after that, and that was probably around 1:30. The police were gone by the time I got there too. So
The reason I asked, and again, this is just speculation on my part, is uh, the third precinct was overthrown about
yep,
between 8 and 9. So I
yep,
imagine there's a little bit of an emotional component as far as law enforcement goes when you get kicked in the nuts that you need
oh
to
yeah.
go take that out somewhere else. So again, I'm just speculating, and I'm just
No, yeah, I may have my time frame off as well because I headed to the cities probably close to 7:30, 8 o'clock. So they probably got the precinct under siege by the time I got there. But one of the things, there was a person that was out there that was listening to the scanner, and there was another person that was in contact with one of the other groups that were protesting and letting them know what was going on back and forth. And so we did know when the precinct was on fire. And so everybody was cheering and celebrating. And it was not too long after, like I would say probably within 30 minutes of that is when they started to fall back. And I think that's kind of when they were putting their plan together. But yeah, it got crazy way fast. Super
Very
fast.
interesting. So did you when you went downtown, did you have an idea where you wanted to go before you got downtown, or did you give that any kind
Yes.
of?
Yeah, so the first place we stopped, I don't know the name of the pawn shop, but the pawn shop that was like being looted that was on Facebook Live the day before, they actually had set it on fire, and that was the first place that we went. But what happened was there wasn't a lot of police presence. It was just enough to let the firefighters through to try to put the blaze out. But then some guys on the other side of the street had set the building was already burned, but they reset it on fire, and then the police came into the road and like kind of got everybody all chaotic. And when the crowd started getting all hyped up, people were trying to figure out somewhere less chaotic to go. And so everybody was like, yeah, let's go downtown. Let's go downtown. So that's kind of how everybody wound up downtown, really. So, but there was
was,
a large group already there when we got there, too.
was that Cadillac Pawn? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, that's it. There you go. I heard the name, but I'm not from the area, so I didn't know it. But
That was one where the actual owner the night before had killed somebody who was attempting to loot the night before.
yeah, and that's what this is the thing because I heard that too because that's what I heard before I got there. But when we were there was a group of people that they identified themselves as family to the guy that died. I don't know whether that's true or not, but they said that he wasn't actually looting the store. He was trying to stop other people. So I guess obviously, everybody has, their own rumors to add to it, but it was
Right.
very conflicting because what the news is saying and then what we hear and then what I was hearing from people that were there that have been there the last few days were stories that didn't add up. Like the Target was interesting because I thought, well, what I was told before was that the Target was what happened was they protesters had gotten pepper sprayed and maced, and they went there to get like milk and water and stuff, and they wouldn't sell it to them. But then there's a guy that says that he lived in that neighborhood for a while, and he said that particular Target is known for calling the police on minorities in the neighborhood. So I was like, well, if that's true, if there's any merit to that, I wonder if that played a part of the emotional response after being denied the milk and the water. You know what I mean? So, but we'll never know.
Right.
Makes perfect sense. So as a younger fella going to downtown Minneapolis for the protest, how did you feel about your own personal safety when you were down there?
At first I didn't feel like I was in danger, because they were just honestly they were standing there. And so like what we were seeing on TV wasn't what we were being met with as far as tear gas and everything. But not too long after, like I said, there was like a couple kids in the back. They were young too. They were like one of them told me he was like 16. And when they started hucking bottles or whatever, that's when you could tell they were getting a little more aggressive because, mind you, we're in the middle of the intersection, but they had like a barricade between us and the other group of protesters. And so they were firing like tear gas into the larger group, like in the back of the crowd towards the people that were throwing stuff, you know?
Mhm.
And so, but it wasn't anything that made us like flee. It was just kind of like, you know, you could tell it was just precautionary, really. But downtown really didn't get hectic until we saw the National Guard. Like everything really wasn't too bad. It was just kind of a cat and mouse of who's gonna attempt who first, you know? But yeah, the National Guard definitely, when they showed up, it was all hell broke loose.
So when you were filming, did you have any intention to obviously you were live streaming it? Did you have any kind of indication you were just basically documenting and letting people know what was going on, or
Yeah. I mean, so here's my thing, like being very notable in Rochester, like myself, and I mean that in like a very humble way. Just a lot of people know me, so I don't want to seem like I'm antagonizing the police, but at the same time, I want to document for those who can't get to the cities and who hear all these rumors and don't know what's going on, because it makes a difference to see it and hear it firsthand from somebody you know versus watching it on CNN when they've created a narrative around whatever they want you to hear, you know. I
Exactly.
wasn't doing too much commentary as much as just filming, so you could just see. So you weren't, you know, listening to me prescribing you what I want you to see. You feel me?
Right.
gotcha?
And if I can include something, the good, or the, you know, from the outside type looking in thing, what the uniqueness of where we're at now, technology wise, where we can bring these individual sets of eyes, talking about he and I and the others, the feet on the ground. It's a unique opportunity to bring history to people's phones, to their computers, to their homes in a way that it's unprecedented. We've never had in history, where we could get all this mass amount of information to people, where they can experience these things almost as well as the people who are there, in a way that's never ever happened before. And that there's a lot of value in that, regardless if it's a good event or a tragedy or a combination of some, like what we're seeing right now. That's why these type of things are so important, because you're not reading it from a book. You know, you're not getting taught in a classroom with a manicured and formulated version of history. This is history right here. This is his device, my device, Unicorn Riot's device. That we're just capturing it and we're putting it out there, and you take with it and do what with you with, or whatever, and you draw the conclusions yourself. And I think that's very very valuable.
Yeah, and that was the thing too, is that I filmed each location we went to, and I thought it was best not to go live where the fires were. And the reason that was is because even though I was there, and just the general, and I don't, maybe you can second this, you were there, the general consistent wasn't an angry, let's burn down Minneapolis. Like that was not the vibe of the crowd. It was, we're fed up, and the fires were symbolic, almost, is how I felt about it. But, you know, how do you transfer that energy through a cell phone, you know, if you're not there? So that's why I filmed the peacefulness of it, like the downtown, because that was more or less what I think the goal of the message was. And it was just, you know, but then when you see them firing at us and they're being completely peaceful, you can then see that, yeah, there is a level of antagonization by the police on these crowds of people. It's not just like my perception of it was just one large group of people just ransacking the city. Like that's how it comes off, but it's not. There's several different groups of people all over, and one of the things I noticed is each group had its own kind of personality for how they were handling the situation.
Right.
I think that is important to note. And there were two things that really stuck with me last night, aside from getting shot in the leg. One of them was while we were downtown, before the National Guard came, there was one police officer in particular who was there. And Cillian, who you've met, she was talking, like having an actual dialogue with the police. It wasn't like she was shouting at them. She was having a conversation. And I remember one of the words she said was, she was saying, you know, I understand you have a job to do, but ask yourself, are you doing this because you want to be here, or are you doing this for a paycheck? And he teared up. And immediately when he kind of lost his composure, whoever was like supervising what they were doing came and immediately grabbed him and whisked him away. Like immediately. And I thought, for me, it made me what I think it did was, for those of us who could see it, it did kind of like depolarize the situation where it's not an us versus them. it did kind of give you a human moment that there's a person underneath the helmet. And that's not to discredit, what the police have done at this point, but there was that human interaction where I think had she had a moment to speak longer, we might have seen last night, like downtown, play out differently. Maybe he might have broke rank even. Like, I don't know. I feel like whatever she was saying before I like paid attention, she really got to him because, with all that temper flame, because it's easy to be there and be mad because you're a cop and people are attacking you, but to side with the people who are against you and to then show emotion, I think that might have actually been more like it would have done more for the situation to show up and shoot at us and shoot tear gas, because that just makes me feel even more aggressive about how I felt before, like we weren't attacking you, so why are you attacking us? But
it would be interesting if we could identify that officer or the deputy, whichever one it was, and if somehow anybody could contact that person and see if they would talk after the fact, and see if they would share what they were feeling, what their emotion was. I don't know.
It was very strange. The second thing too that stuck with me as well is like with the looting and everything. Wow. So we wound up going over to the 3rd precinct. What I noticed is, I don't know if when you were there, did you notice the large mass of people on the bridge up above?
Yeah, the people that were just trying to safely observe, I think.
Yeah, so that group, I noticed most of them were my age or older. And then when I actually got on the ground, we went around the block and actually came down and were walking through the neighborhoods. And I noticed the only people that were really on the ground that close to the like fire itself were like a bunch of really young kids. Like we stopped and talked to a few of them just to see where they were from and how old they were. I think the youngest kid I saw was like 14. And then there were some kids that were there from like Sparta, Wisconsin. Like they're nowhere even near here. And like within 10, 15 minutes of talking to these kids, we wound up in US Bank parking lot and they're robbing the damn bank. And I think the most disheartening thing of just watching it all play out is that TV is going to show you black people running around with all these TVs and stealing shit. But a majority of the people that were doing it were like young suburban white kids. They were the ones running in the bank and trying to destroy the ATM and stealing shit out of the stores and especially the gas stations in that area. And I was sitting there just like, man, if only like CNN or whoever would film this, like this is the reality of the looters. And I'm not trying to say it's a white versus black thing, but in reality, it's a bunch of people that aren't even from there, know shit about the neighborhood that are doing this. And then the people who are there defending the neighborhood have to take the fall for it. And that's like the biggest thing that I was like, man, they could really change the narrative by just speaking or showing the truth at the very least,
Yeah. I think what Dan says is right there. And there's evidence of that. And I know in watching Joey's stream last night, many of the people that were looting were white. In fact, probably over half. I don't know if you recall that for yourself, Joe, but again, looting's looting.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely can't say it was over half just because there was a racial majority of brown people down there. But I think the point is it's all relative, and that it was all age groups with me. I guess that 60-something-year-old white woman running in, and there were older people of color looting as well too, and starting fires.
For sure.
Is in my observation, but it takes away so much when that becomes the conversation, because yes, there's blame to be had, but what's the catalyst of all this? And the catalyst has been brewing long enough. If we didn't have this event to begin with, to start with, right, there wouldn't be that excuse, whether people are doing it out of frustration or making some kind of political statement, or if they're just taking advantage of it. We're taking a huge trigger tool off the table, right, where they can't do that, regardless of what their motion is, regardless of what their justification is.
So I have a question for both of you. When you were out doing your reporting and streaming, did you feel like the people that were around you were generally, for lack of a better term, friendly and amicable, or were they all angry?
Almost 99.5% of the people I interacted with were kind and friendly people. The first time I got maced or got tear gas down there on the first night, I come across my eyes are snot pouring out of my nose and my eyes are burning. and a black dude about 20 something years old. He's like, "Here, man, have a water." I'm like, "Do you want some money? Can I pay for this?" Like, no, just take it. You know, get your eyes flushed out. And I'd never met the dude before. He was nothing but compassionate to me. And there were plenty of people down there who were specifically down there to act as first aid people, who were down there to help and be observers like I was trying to be. And here's something I didn't see, and this surprised me. I saw 0 fights. Like, usually in a chaotic situation, I grew up in inner city areas in the hood or whatever. You get too many people together for long enough, there's going to be something popping off. And I saw absolutely zero physical fights between any of the protesters there. And this is with, plenty of people, smoking some weed and having a drink and things like that too, having a good time. I saw more people dancing and having fun. Yeah, some destruction in the process was part of that celebration, but take it for what it is. But I saw absolutely no physical fights. That kind of blew me away. When thousands of people are together in that type of environment with no oversight of law enforcement or anything like that, and no one's throwing punches, I was pretty impressed by that.
Absolutely. How about you, D'Angelo?
I guess I only saw 2 incidents, but it was neither one of them were anything major. One of them was there was one lady that was there to like counter protest, but I feel like her heart was in the right place. It's just the way she went about it was definitely the wrong way. But nobody jumped all over the lady. They more or less just out chanted her. So I didn't get that. But yeah, but I did actually like what he was saying about people giving out supplies and trying to be like first aid. There were people that we encountered that were downtown that were walking around actively giving out first aid kits. And then there was a little note card that told you how to treat tear gas. So, I mean, yeah, we definitely had those people that they weren't necessarily protesting, but they were looking out for the people that decided to. So,
right.
And then there was a small group of EMTs and some nurses downtown that were also trying to help people who had been pepper sprayed and tear gas, which was interesting enough. The police actually tear gassed one of the EMTs as well for whatever reason, or they pepper sprayed her. Right. Super. It was like it kind of blurred the lines of like, well, aren't y'all kind of technically on the same side? But
wow.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I again want to thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. I want to thank you for going out and streaming for those of us who can't be there, but would like to be there in spirit. I don't know if either of you are going to go down tonight. But if so, I know you're going to want to have to get yourselves ready and plan to get down there and see what you're going to do. Joey, you've got on your name tag there, filterfreeamerica.com. Folks, if you look up Filter Free America on Facebook, Joey streams his stream there.
It's actually Filter Free America podcast. There's 2 different ones. Filter Free America podcast is the one that's the active one for the podcast and where I stream from. Okay,
so Filter Free America podcast. Please check that out. And even if nothing goes on tonight, you should like that page because Joey does a great job, and it's a great podcast. D'Angelo, I don't know if you're going to go down tonight.
Probably will. Just kind of depends. I heard they imposed a curfew, so
yeah,
if
8 o'clock
that's not going to be a problem. But
8 o'clock to 6 in the morning. And yes, I echo what Dan says. Thank you guys both, and please, we appreciate what you're doing. We love you both, and please stay safe, guys.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, folks. We'll see you again.